Let's start off this way. Assuming that maybe sometime somebody will be seeing this on tape, perhaps. When we're doing these right now at these meetings, I am exercising no control over where the tapes are going or what's going on, but obviously they're being shown on, I believe they're called some cable networks at least, or cable stations in some cities, because I just got another letter from a viewer. That's not the actual letter, but I'm going to tell you what the letter was. The basis. Now, this is good. The basis of the letter was this: that the person said that they had seen several tapes, such as we're doing now. I don't know how recent, I don't even know why, but they said seen some tapes, and he or she, I won't give it away. Hell, you can figure it's a he. Write this source. But expressed an attitude that I believed I might be interested. That was at least the tacit, between the lines. Why else would they bother to spend postage and write me? But said before he or she went any further with attending these meetings or where he's seeing them or watching them, he wanted to know, for me personally, tracked me down some way, got the address, he wanted to know what was the purpose of this. Now, would everyone like to think about that again after all this time? What is the purpose of this? And, as always, if I must remind you people who may be seeing this at another time, another place, this has nothing to do, no matter how the words may sound, with sarcasm of any sort. But many of you by now, if not all of you, should understand in some strange way that if somebody has to ask what's the purpose of this, there's no way that they would ever know. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody could not have thought that, or that you might, some of you have asked that in the past, but by now some of you should have your own view of the fact that if somebody is actually in that high end of the nervous system, as far as it gets under ordinary conditions, would see some of this, and not just flip it through and think it was some sort of insanity, or that I was about to try and sell some kind of new car wash or wax. I had a Vegematic in my pocket. If somebody actually saw this sort of thing several times, and let's just say found it interesting, just for the second, but then their own mind, as driven by you-know-who, says, well, I want to go directly to this, to the source at least, and I want to find out, least, he didn't say this, but I know how it goes, least I be misled, least I be fooled, something in that area. I want to find out, just see if the man will admit it. What's the purpose of this? It does not seem like an unreasonable question, I guess, to ordinary people, but then I could ask you people to ask yourselves, what is the purpose of anything? And along the kinds of maps that we have been using and discussing of recent, I would point out to you, using that kind of arbitrary, though useful, sketch of life being divided into primary and secondary affairs and the primary and secondary world, I'd have to point out to you, when I say, what's the purpose of anything, rhetorically, then I'll go ahead and rhetorically respond. Everything can be divided into this before we get to the question of what might be the purpose of this, or my rhetorical response to my own rhetorical question of what would be the purpose of anything. Is first off, consider that you can quite usefully divide up everything verbally into the essential and the entertaining. The essential being the primary. The three great S's: sex, sustenance, and security. That is essential if you're going to live just at the minimal level, if you're going to survive as an identifiable, separate organism known as Hubert, or whatever your damn name is. And if your name's Hubert, don't write me. You cannot copyright the name Hubert. It's either primary and essential, or it is then secondary, and it's not untoward to refer to it as entertaining. So, to ask the question, what is the purpose of anything? People say, well, what's the purpose of a political party? What's the purpose in studying economics? What's the purpose in having national boundaries? What's the purpose in having hobbies? What's the purpose in fashion? What's the purpose in reading fiction? What's the purpose in shining your shoes? What's the purpose in having no shoes? If you ask the purpose of anything, is first consider, I suggest, is what you are apparently questioning, is it essential? And if it is, what else are you going to say? To say what's the purpose? Now, what's the purpose in eating food? Not dining, not at the hobby level, but what is the purpose in eating food? Anyone that would have to ask that, and I'm not inferring that the gentle person who wrote me was that dense, but you do it instead. If someone had to ask, what is the purpose of eating? How long would you care to be a seatmate of that person and have to engage in some kind of conversation? If a person seriously asks, what is the purpose in eating? You're doomed to start with, if that was the way that you were thinking yourself. May I suggest, I'm glad you're the one that's got to sit with you for the rest of this ride instead of me, because you're not going anywhere. Then if you move to the area of what could be entertaining, I chose the words as careful as I choose any, of essential and entertaining. But if you're going to call it entertaining, which I do not hesitate to call it that, this sort of stuff. Now for those people also, I keep getting letters, I guess at least I can do this, of wanting not just the purpose, but what is this? And even some of those cities are showing this. I guess we should go ahead again. The TKS is, this kind of stuff. Of course, looked at from a third person outside party. I guess we should actually also note that would be, in that case, known as TKS. That kind of stuff. With this person's inquiry, I was going to see if you could not tie into some of the things we had already been talking about of late. In fact, the last time we were talking. That good old idea that life has implanted in men to various degrees that they have lost the way, all the way from an apparent religious basis of that, of being kicked out of paradise, etc., to men just feeling as though I am psychologically ill at home. I have yet to find the right spot psychologically where I should be standing in relationship to other people, to my family, to my friends, etc. The most blatant external example to use, as always, up until now, I guess we won't live long enough to outlive this being an example, but has been your forefathers, the genetic secondary institution known as religion. And you don't have to be religious at all, but just have general knowledge that that has been the secondary reflection of men trying to find their way. And it even still is now with those that would assume that they were, or insist that they were seeking some sort of enlightenment or some extraordinary, or at least unusual, insight into life outside the institutionalized structures of religion. It would still be, I'm not trying to prove a point, but you should know, even if the person claimed to be a humanist or an atheist, whatever they were pursuing, if they're pursuing some guru coming out of Pakistan wearing a Brooks Brothers or a Seville suit, the guy still, the continuity of life genes in man, the continuity is such that he would have to in some way refer to the past, and it would eventually, if not one generation back, would fall into the hands of something resembling institutionalized religion, so you can't escape that in the city at the secondary level. But I was going to point out to you on the basis of, or try to get you to see on the basis of asking what is the purpose of such and such. Life makes men consider this idea of finding their way, of just trying to be better, self-improvement, jogging. May appear to be a crude form, but it's tied right to the secondary ideas of I got to find my way, I've got to get on a better path, I've got to improve myself, that's why we're here. The idea of either finding the path or relocating the path, that you have strayed from it. Consider how serious without any analyzation, it is taken to be. Absolutely serious. There's no form of humor. We've been meeting here so long, I guess you and perhaps even not you, maybe. Some of us forget that it just seems to be laughter, 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 and since I'm not really keeping up, I don't know how if they're showing these on cable somewhere. I don't know whether they have a block listed as comedy for tonight or we don't know what it is. But back to what I wanted you to see, not that we're right and everybody's wrong. But finding the way, all the way from, of course, religious, if you want to take it in the true institutionalized sense, all the way from that to people sitting in libraries, reading books, studying philosophy, or people just sitting around, even taking drugs that believe that in some way that they're going to expand their consciousness and tune into, Jupiter or somewhere. This is serious stuff, is it not? People do not stand around and laugh about that. People do not laugh about the gods. They do not laugh about cosmic forces. They do not laugh about some increased state of awareness. This is not funny. Life makes it serious business, comma. But, I had to say it. But if you look at all the directions that are available ordinarily, the directions are always on the basis of apparently offering instructions as to how to do the impossible. That is, how to pursue some fool's errand, such as, I just pick them at random from any religion you own or just from whatever the latest cult is if I knew, but how about love your enemies? That this is the thing to do. And life has a purpose for putting that energy in words and spreading it all over this planet so that many people, religious and otherwise, go, well, how true, how true, how true. But it is a fool's errand directive. That is, no one has ever done it. It is not common currency. People of any form of city sanity do not say, yes, I can do that. No, it's more on the basis that is an aim. That strikes me, even outside of religious context, as being a quite admirable dream, an attempt we should make. But it's not something that is a fait accompli by any means. So, the combo that I was trying to offer you, as opposed to whatever Dave Thomas's newest menu treat at Wendy's is, the combo is that life, right, it's a BLT of some kind. Don't make me have to figure out on the spot what that acronym stands for, in addition to that non-kosher repast. But you've got life making everyone believe that I've lost my way. Then, of course, you got to go look for it. And then, looking for it is serious business. Then, all of the directions left, and all the religions everywhere, the directions are futile. They're directions to a fool's errand. Then, it would seem that somebody here and there, I was playing the part, playing like I'm the somebody, would have to go, wait. Just how serious can life be about this finding the way? That is, if it's going to make me serious, if you're ordinary, if I'm speaking for ordinary intelligence, that life is going to make this to be a serious undertaking, a serious matter of some consequence, no matter how much time or effort you apparently gave to it personally, but that it is an all-encompassing, serious aspect of life that we should be finding our way, doing better. But then, not only serious, but then to look and see that all of the ordinarily available directions are useless. There's no one sense, now I'm not saying that life has a sense of humor as good as some of you people, because I know I have a much harder time making life laugh than I do some of you. So we don't have to really go in and try to make life having a sense of humor into some real crude anthropomorphic picture, but assuming that it had in its own way some form of a sense of humor. Could I suggest to you that this might be one of the places? Now, we've been through, I've tried to get some of you to consider this is, again, for you people on tape sometime at some other place. There's no attack on any religion. I can just pick them out at random. But you are so, and those of you that are getting good, it is not some sort of cultural desensitization. It is the way life is wired up. It's what makes it real funny. Well, I'm about to point it out real quick before some of you jump ahead. But think about the largest institutionalized apparent structure, cache of secret information, direct connections to cosmic forces, the Christian church. And the head of the Christian church, the thing that is seriously supporting and helping direct people, and the leader of it, picture him. Picture the way the man looks. Now, you don't normally laugh, and we're not here to laugh at the Pope. That's not the point. I could pick out some other religion. But here comes the guy that apparently represents, if not personally, that there's secrets somewhere. They're hidden inside the walls there in the Vatican, or each Pope, just before he dies, he gives a secret to the next one, like starboard's right, port's left, that kind of thing. Just they pass along the secret information all the way down from Jesus to Peter and on down. Whatever it might be. But then look, just for a second, what you've already done, is you look around all the way. Now, I'm not just picking out that one thing, because where I was really going, or started pointing with you, was the intellectual side, that all of the information it has, all of the rituals, the institutionalized wisdom of the Catholic Church, the Jewish religion, Islam, Yogi Bear, Guru so-and-so, all the information in the city, insofar as putting you on the way, that there's being actual information that, well, what I want is something that will cure my feeling of slight irritation, discomfort, give me some information, ease my mind, whatever it is. All the information available amounts to very little more than instructions, vague directions to send people off on fool's errands. Now, I would assume that most people that ever get involved with TKS, this kind of stuff, or for those of you out there, that kind of stuff, I want to keep that clear, that I would assume that almost everyone has gone through some little something that you tried to talk to your priest, your rabbi, to somebody that you thought somewhere along the way was hoarding some sort of secret, knew more than your father did, or some of your father was about like maybe the archetype for Homer Simpson. But you figure there's somebody somewhere you can go talk to and ask the questions like, what is time? Or how do you know that right is starboard? And you go and you ask the people and you find out they do not know. They do not know. That was where I wanted you to start looking, but I was just drawing it all out, an easy way, if you needed an easier way, to then, not only do they not know, which the whole structure is based upon, millions of all the religions, the followers assume that it's known. The Christian church will assume, if you were a good Catholic at least, in that part, that the Pope is in some way spiritually. Obviously, I guess they don't think genetically. It's not the bloodline running from Peter and down through all these popes. But in some way, there's some kind of spiritual connection going on, and there's some kind of information there that at least the Pope, he knows what the hell's going on. And of course, he doesn't. But that is irrelevant at the ordinary level. But he does not. And the whole sphere, the spectrum of going from no institution knowing, that none of the information knowing, all the way from that got the first laugh, if you want the easy way, that it's serious business. But they don't know, but it's real serious, that you got to respect what's going on. The search to be a good Christian, a good Muslim, a good Jew, a good anything, is serious business, if you take it serious. Most people do, even those not pursuing it. Civilized people, at least, do not publicly speak ill of other religions nowadays. Or if they do, they regret it. I shouldn't have done that. So it's all the way from taking it serious, what they represent, when they do not represent any real knowledge any more than you have, all the way from that to, if you look at it, just an attempt to be cold-blooded, that you turn around and here's this serious business, and every religion got their own versions. I just pick on the Pope because he's the most obvious, that this serious thing that I, all my life, have wondered what's going on, and surely somebody knows, and they say, get thee to a romery, Get thee to Rome, and there's a guy over there that's in direct line from somebody that was a piece of the gods. And you get over there, if you didn't know any better, and there's a big crowd and everybody, and you can feel it, that there is some sort of something in the crowd. Of course there is at a soccer match. But there you stand out in St. Peter's Square, and you're prepared, and the door's open, and here comes this gentleman walking out, dressed like the Pope dresses, and you think, this is it. This is the serious business. I suggest to you, although you would not normally perhaps want to refer to it as life's sense of humor, but that life makes the feeling that there is a search involved, that should be the proper, at least underlying purpose of a civilized man or woman's life, that this is serious. And everything in life tells you it is. There's no laughter going on in churches, synagogues, temples, mosques. There's no laughs going on in any sort of cult, metaphysical, New Age, any other thing. There's damn few laughs going on in bird-watching societies. Groups get together. Now, they may later have a little social get-together, but whatever the purpose, it can be a library society. It can be a charitable organization. They do not normally get together, and there's much laughter going on. They may want to have a few laughs later, maybe open up a little vino or something, but let's do the business of whatever this is, the library society, the Red Cross. And whatever the business is serious business. I mean, that's a Kairoot for you. In the city, all business is serious business. That's why they separate. Well, let's do our business. Is there more business? Bang the gavel, and now, hey, let's relax a while and have a few laughs. But all business is serious business. How serious does life actually intend that to be if you followed where we have run around thus far for 20 minutes or so, that it makes you feel all this is serious, and it's almost a joke. I'm just saying that sort of frivolously. To walk out and to see these people in these institutions made out of marble, worth millions of dollars, people there, and then these other gentlemen, sometimes ladies, but again, it's mostly gentlemen, come out dressed with curly shoes and all kinds of things coming out of their head and making signs, and you maybe, assuming you don't break out and laugh and they beat the crap out of you, and you stick through, and you later go back to them and you say, that was very interesting. I've never been to anything like this, and I have been searching, treading this planet, searching for what I feel like is some sort of missing piece in me. And the priest or the rabbi, somebody says, good, my son, you came to the right place. Good, good, good. And you still manage to suppress your laugh while he takes off his little uniform. And you say, well, what I want to know is, what's the secret? And you find out that he don't know. Oh, don't get into that, kid. It's good you're here. Why don't you join up and come around to... You can't get into that thing. Well, do you know or not? No, I don't want to talk about it. Of course, they could if they had, which I assume went through some. They still call them theological colleges. That at least they're as literate as the average person. They might say something such as, well, the mysteries of the gods will never be known to man, or the mysteries of life are not within the bailiwick of the ordinary intelligence. And if you were still 11 or 12 years old, you might go, wow, that sounds pretty impressive. That, along with the fancy gold shoes and filigree underwear you got on. Within that context, well, still, if you'll try, you people out there, and hold that I'm just using religion as the time-honored, and life still uses, as the greatest attempted vehicle, an institution that seems to support, seems to want to direct, seems to encourage men, as it's supposed to, it's tied to it, in the belief that I am not actually on the right path, and I should be. I should be at least searching for the proper path, a better path, if not the path. But even those most deeply involved never give such a question as this as to whether what they're searching for, even what they're attempting to do, which amounts to fool's errands, that is futile. If the Pope doesn't know any more than the lowliest supplicant showing up at a Mass. He doesn't know any more about it than she does. He does. But they do not even ask, even if they didn't use my terms, they do not even ask, is what I'm attempting to do, is it on the basis of pursuing or searching for something that would be essential, or is it secondary? Is it in the realm of entertainment? Well, don't feel like you lost your place. Ordinary people take religion very seriously in several definitions and connotations of the word, not just what I said. They take it seriously. But now back to the arbitrary division that we were mapping for a second of things, everything, and human life being usefully divisible into the essential or the entertaining. And if you ask ordinary people, all right, if that was a valid or even a theoretical division, where would religion fall? And we'll assume that 99% at least of all civilized people would say, well, obviously essential. I'm not religious, but it's obviously essential to civilization and to many people and blah, blah, blah. But is it? Now, perhaps we should note one more time that even after dividing things into the essential, the primary, and into the secondary now is like neo-primary. It's like a new version. It's a new level of the essential. And so in one sense, it is not running parallel. You're going to have to get into trying to push your intellect into the area of like the infinitely adjacent. Because you could say that religion, amongst other things, I could use fashion, the dining experience, romantic love as opposed to sex. But let's say religion a second. That you could say that religion is secondary, that a man could live, people have lived, with no discernible religion. Then you could say, from another equally valid view, that civilized people, in one way or the other, can't seem to live without some notion of it. And they're both true. It is as though that which is not essential, that is now required for ordinary existence, is a kind of neo-essential. But even that, notwithstanding, you could not get an ordinary person's intellect if they followed that much just theoretically. And I said, but still, would you call religion, this search, this feeling, whether you want to call it religious personally or not, if I was addressing an individual, if you wanted to take it in a religious context or just more in a philosophical, an intellectual, a sociological, a psychological context, that we should, or that we could all be better and should be. And the person said, all right, I got that. Would you consider that to be, if we use my little theoretical division for a minute, would you consider that to be essential or entertaining? The ordinary intellect could not even deal with that. I mean, it could make an answer, but it would not even understand that there was any validity to the question. Well, if this seems to be getting too oblique again, let me go back and give you our, see, I'm making it the regal prerogative, including all of you, not just me and him or her. That would be this and everything in life, from religion to folk dancing, is either essential or it's entertaining. One more time, parenthetically, the entertaining can now be a form of neo-essential. But if, for the purpose of looking at it from a particular way, you can always just ask, is it required for one's sustenance? Is it sex? Or is it involved with security? You know, is it something other than the bare minimum to keep me alive? And if it is, I was suggesting that it's useful to look at it as being entertaining. I don't care what it is. It could be religion. It could be your feeling of romantic love. Or those that write me serious letters that see these tapes. I don't know why in the world you consider this essential. And if you thought it was entertaining and thought, well, wait a minute, this is weird entertainment because I keep taking it seriously and then I laugh about it. Sue me. Well, you don't have to do that. Write me. That's worse. No, it's not. And I enjoy getting well. People, at least an indentation, if it's not a whole new paragraph, may we suggest to ourselves that people that seem to be attracted to this kind of stuff, when it actually seems to be existing, which is hard to say, but if it is, then I think it might be not without some benefit to assume, to even operate on the basis that those that might be attracted to this kind of stuff might at some time, particularly in the beginning, be better served if they were not tied to what seemed to be some dogmatic set of methods or rituals and etc., because then it becomes institutionalized. Then it makes, of course, worse than that, it begins to make some kind of sense. It becomes episodic. It becomes sequential. And it can, of course, then it can become serious. But I thought some of you might consider that even beyond not being locked into some sort of directives or it seeming to have a serious, specific operational intent that can be verbalized or structured, was that if you just try it on your own to see that there is a coexisting primary and secondary, an essential and an entertaining world going on within man and within the realm of the infinitely adjacent. It's not one or the other. Remember, it's both, neither, one or the other, and then some. It is coexisting, but it's not a matter of some kind of parallel universe, and it's not a matter of either or, and it's not even a matter simple enough of dovetails, much less ducktails. But it does not even fit like that. It's just neither, both, either one, and then some. But everything that ordinary intelligence would tell you, without any doubt, without any analysis, and with no support for this, contrary, everything else in life is wired up to think all of life, more or less, as being serious. That's why we divide. That's why men are driven to divide. They got no choice. Into work and play. 9 to 5 and then later. Or let's do our business here and decide, are we going to continue to call ourselves the North American Stamp Collectors Association, or are we going to call ourselves with that name that none of us can pronounce? Let's go ahead and take a vote. Let's take a vote so we can get through. We got some refreshments here. I know that Hubert, it's still him, I know he brought in some refreshments and we'll have some fun, but we got to get through with this. So what's the vote? By and large, the human nervous system takes life very seriously. It's always on the verge of dying, it thinks. It has, most people, as we've covered before, thinks without any doubt that health is a reasonable hobby. Well, at least it's cheap to produce media-wise, and so it fills up a lot of space, but that health is a reasonable hobby, and that by and large life is serious. That's why avocations, a little fun here and there, it seems to be so poignant to man, so important. Just a few hours a week, or just a couple of martinis after work, just a little bit of fun. My God, life is such a drag anyway. And you don't have to be psychologically impaired, as they say in the city. You don't have to be particularly neurotic. It just seems like that by and large, life is sort of an abrasive thing in which to be involved. Life does not seem to be as easy and lubricated as, I started to say Trojans, but I won't say that, as people would like for it to be. At least you think you have lost your place, or at least some of you out there think I lost my place. Now, maybe we return to the opening of tonight's tape and point out that if life had a sense of humor, or anything resembling it, it makes you take life in general seriously, to such a degree that there is a clear connotation. There's a clear definition. I shouldn't say connotation. definition in everybody that you know the difference between work and play. You know the difference between something serious, even if it's just serious to you, or maybe it's just serious to your wife, that she drags you over to the Petunia Growers Association every now and then. And you may personally, you may not sit there and laugh at them out loud, but you may not consider it very seriously. But you do understand this, that there is a clear definition in everyone's life, in the life of humanity, between the serious and the non-serious, except they do not look at it, what I was suggesting that most of you could see by now, a potentially more profitable division verbally into the essential and the entertaining. And to take the essential again as just being that which would just minimally keep you, the organism, alive. And then anything else, I don't care whether it's petunias or Protestantism, is entertainment. But there is no support for this. There is no way that people, and we're not talking about some ordinary person back at the city level that might be wired up in such a way as to make sarcastic, vitriolic attacks on religion. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the bell curve, the bourgeoisie of life via man that would find life in general be serious, and particular anything that seemed to have to do with his, as they used to call it, his spiritual life, trying to do better. So life has got you doing that, and life apparently has directions. It has always furnished religion. It has furnished all the Vedi Mikams, the Bibles, the Testaments, the words of the gods you could want. You can read them. You got 60 or 70 years, though you hadn't tried, and you can read it, and it will send you off. I know they don't say this in the churches and in the region, but they send you off on busy work, fool's errands. How serious, if life was operating at the crude level that the ordinary intellect is, how serious can life be about this? And the man writes and wants to know, before he goes any further, what's the purpose of this? Well, I could have answered beyond rhetorically and wrote the man or said it to the tape if he ever saw it and say, well, do you find this entertaining? And if you went, yeah, then I could go. I hate to be a show-off intellectually, but I could go. What else do you want? What the hell do you want out of life? Yeah, but I keep suspecting that you're up to something else, and I won't know what it is. Well, now what are you up to? Well, see, I'm glad we're not smart alecks here. That'd probably get me a letter bomb back instead of another just semi-sarcastic letter. There's 4 or 5 other things that some of you might be able to tie up to this, believe it or not. That's one good thing about believe it or not, is it costs the same price. Except, of course, the institutionalized version, that is, you end up down St. Augustine at Ripley's institutionalized version, they charge you to go in there just to look around all these displays and things on the wall saying, believe it or not, and you pay whatever it is, $10 to go in there and be asked, believe it or not. See, look at the big money you save by watching these cable channels. Because I'm pointing out, believe it or not, is everywhere, and it costs the same. Don't go pay that money, unless it's a hobby. I don't wish them any ill. But I was going to say that there's some further connections that some of you might be able to make right quick. To be able to see a kind of secondary, that is entertaining, or neo-essential world existing, not just coexisting, but coexisting in the realm of the infinitely adjacent, that there's no way to directionally, to spatially say, well, this is it, or that's, well, you're just saying that's the other side of that, or that's around the corner. Yeah, but you know, if you stop there, it's too bad. But within the realm of seeing, that it's all a matter of it being infinitely adjacent, you might also grasp as an example of what happens in a describable manner of things moving from the erstwhile essential primary world into the neo-primary. That is, that which from one view can still be seen as being secondary, that it can be dispensed with. That if all the churches did cease to exist just like that right now, we'll assume, just follow me, that we could all still live for a while. That it would not literally kill you. It's not going to happen, and it would literally do something to life. But the same would happen if we went and did away with all cocaine, all anger, all jealousy. But this kind of graduation, you can begin to see that if, let us say that X is called, is identified now as being Y, it not only becomes so, it's moving from, let's say, from a primary base to a secondary, to a neo-primary. If X, whatever it is called and identified, that life needs it for whatever reason and moves it, at least here, not necessarily spatially out there, but it moves from being X to being called Y, it not only becomes so, but in the city no one can remember that was ever otherwise. Hence, I suggest to you, if you want another way of look, is why such ideas as not only religion, but the ordinary city attempts to describe the structure of the human psyche, the human psychological paradigm of an unconscious mind and a conscious mind and an id and an Iliad and a Homer. Now back to the Simpsons. That wasn't the guy that wrote that Greek, no. Once life has had to, for its own reasons, make man call X Y, and it becomes Y, then there are darn few who can remember, and it's not a matter of ordinary memory, but there are few people who can recall when it was otherwise. And so now, when such things as, and not just the institution of psychology or the science of psychiatry, it is the human nervous systems in general, sophisticated, ordinary people, would look, instead of just the psychological paradigm example, they would look upon romantic love as being, maybe we understate it and say, fraught with ambiguities, uncertainties, self-defeating activities therein, and no one can seem to explain why. Why is it that two people should love one another and be grasping one another and hugging and kissing, going off on their honeymoon, and 3 hours later, he strangled her? And it happens over and over and over. And they say, well, what in the world is going on? It just shows humanity has lost their way. What if, just take romantic love, take fashion, take dining, take religion, if it's actually something else? If X has been called Y for very good reasons, not human reasons, but for life's reasons, and X has been called Y, identified as Y, then there is no choice. This is not theoretically correct. X becomes friggin' Y. And that's it. The case is closed. There is left over, as always, the episodic nature of the human maps that the ordinary intelligence makes, so that no explanation is a satisfying explanation. At all periods, remind you of the odors that used to arrive during Hamlet's time from the Baltic areas, I think Denmark in particular, and they think, well, there's a period there at the end, but, boy, that's not all that satisfying. And yet they break in, they begin to roll the credits, and you realize the show's over, and they're going to a station break, and another show's coming up. And you think, well, some of these TV movies are not bad, or some of these situation comedies, they're not really that funny, but what the hell, it's over. I'll see what's next. So you didn't particularly like it, but there's always, after each episode, another episode. After each human thought, there's another thought. It may be the same one. And let us say that you're so, you're so busy you don't seem to notice. We'll put it that. You're so busy with serious affairs that you fail in general to notice that you're watching the same episodes over and over and over and sitting there over and over and over bitching about it, taking them seriously, criticizing them. It is beyond the realm of ordinary memory, and there's no tricks. You can't strengthen this because you're not supposed to. But once X has been named, identified, and as Y, it becomes Y, And there's no one left to remember when it was otherwise, much less simultaneous, because it is not simply now why, and it's not simply that it was once otherwise. It's still both. Insofar as what's the purpose of this, I can't resist in a few more minutes. One more time, let's jump back to religion. And other than people might be seeing this on tape, if they do it some other time in some other place, I know I don't have to apologize or explain to everybody else. This is not an attack on religion. Religion is as important as everything else in life, for ordinary life. But it has been the institutionalized shell, directive, impetus, apparent energy, apparent storehouse of knowledge having to do with the way to get humanity back on the track. And of course, everyone has already at the city level been made to believe that I am slightly off the track. You and everyone else, bunky. But back to religion. I'm not trying to compare religions, and I'm not trying to draw up any kind of secondary parallels. But if you think back, for you people, I'm more talking to those on tape, still assuming that this gets outside of us talking here just tonight, since I started off responding to a letter from a viewer. This kind of stuff, you could pick any religion in the world, you can take the basic ideas, because the religion is not the point, it's the energy behind it. But you could take what is the fashionable, verbal shell of the religions, all the ideas that seem to be that the religions are up to something, that they seem to be pointing to something. And they don't necessarily call it the way or to get back on the track. They got their own versions, but they refer to the big payoff of what should be the purpose of a man's life if he is going to pursue the right path, which at the institutionalized city level is always their particular path. It has to be. But here you've got all of the ideas, and I was just going to try and get some of you, if you never thought about it, to see that, for instance, all the ideas, right quick, from all the way from Islam to Buddhism as a religion, Judaism, Christianity, all the ideas of the kingdom of heaven, the promised land, paradise, Nirvana. What are we talking about? You might as well be saying this kind of stuff. Not that that's what this is, but you might as well say that, because any idea that there is some other place that you could live, somewhere along the line, it's not important, but I'm going to point out to you, somewhere along the line, somebody, somewhere. Third time, I got to tell you, it's not important. Of course, you people out there, if some of you think it is, you got a new hobby. Somebody that said, if they did, well, they had to, or we wouldn't know it. If they said, the kingdom of the gods, or the kingdom of heaven, or paradise, somebody somewhere was talking about a new place to think. But notice what happens when something runs from, and now I've got the up the stakes for you, runs from a non-essential essential level into a secondary level. We're not talking about the ordinary. There was an idea that at one time had some validity to a few people. Did that get confusing enough for you? Let's change. We're going into an adjacent area right quick. Let's call the idea that somebody somewhere said, listen, there is a promised land. We're living in the wrong place. And we're not talking about the essentials. We're not talking about the 3 S's to stay alive. We're talking about into an infinite adjacent area that for a few people somewhere, that was essential. That's what they were looking for. You got me? All right, then what did it turn into? What is it now? Or that somebody somewhere one time was talking to these people and said, there is another kingdom, not just where you live. And of course, I say things, we say things here around, trying to go to a new neural spot, a new place. But now what's it turned into? As it was supposed to. It's not any kind of mistake. It's not that religions were up to some conspiratorial efforts. It is now taken as being an actual, physical, as spatial possibility at some other horizontal time. It is now part of the secondary world. It is not essential at even the level that was essential to a few people originally. Because now, as it's supposed to, it now has, it's not just a different definition, different doesn't even cover it. It is now in the hands of the secondary world. It is a part of all the institutionalized dreams, the serious dreams, which, how about the term? The kingdom of heaven, paradise, the promised land. Is that serious or not? That's nothing to smirk about. We're talking about that all of us are strangers in a strange land. All of us are being rained on, mistreated, abused, unappreciated. But if we stay the course, pursue the right path, at least search for it, there will be a spatial payoff. All the religions also, a few other things that we were talking about recently. How about all the ideas, the basic ones? It's the heart of every religion you know, of the directives, the institutionalized, ritualistic directives, laws, rules of how to reach this other spatial promised land. Not here anymore. Of course, it was never meant to be here to any wide audience. The idea of charity. That would seem it's at the heart, as you know, in Islam, Judaism, well, in Christianity still some. But anyway, the charity. But may I suggest to you, taken outside the spatial area, is not simply the giving of alms, which it is in the religions, but how about what charity would be inside the nonverbal operations of the human nervous systems between one another? You could look at charity as giving others the absolutely uncritical right to do what they got to do. That's charity. Non-verbally. That is charity beyond the spatial realm, that you got no agenda for anyone else. Like compassion. They all do that in some form. That the heart of every religion could almost be said to be try and love your enemies, or love your fellow man as yourself, your neighbor as yourself. But compassion, I guess we'll about wrap it up, or love. But you could look upon compassion as simply being non-critical of other people's ideas. That would be at a different adjacent area, that would be the essential behind these ideas originally. That would have been the energetic essential. That compassion for somebody is simply not kicking at them. It's not trying to be compassionate to their behavior, or trying to be compassionate to any area that the ordinary intellect would identify verbally. It is simply to be non-critical. What could be more compassionate than that? But at the ordinary level, that would be fool's errands directions to tell people that. Because they could say, well, that sounds good. In fact, that fits in. That doesn't conflict with my religion. Well, I'll take that. I accept that. Now you say, well, you say you accept it, and what's the chance of you doing it? Ha! Who am I to ask them a question like that? And what's the chance of anybody's doing it? The nervous system's not that way. The energy transfer within life, within man, would be defeated. It would be the other examples that we were discussing a night or so ago of trying to make, or assuming you could make, a true objective sang-froid observation about something, and even people that heard the setup of the sentence would go, well, all right, yeah, but what's your point? I didn't have a point. I simply wanted to point this out. People would not hear it. It is useless. It does not serve life's need. And so what is normally referred to as compassion. People say, well, I can't do it. No one can do it. Only a Superman. Only the gods can. Or only we can do it once we die and go to paradise or wherever it is. There's nothing wrong. But do you understand that the directions, even if it was put in those kind of terms, still amounts to directions for a fool's errand? That they could sound sober, somber, serious. That is, be uncritical of other people. Have no particular agenda, but be specifically, in this case, non-critical of their ideas, not their behavior, not their religion, not what kind of foods they eat, not what sex they are, what color they are. No. Be non-critical of their ideas. That's where it came from. And the person says, all right, I got that. And I said, well, what do you think? Think you can do it? Well, no, I can't do it. But I like the idea. I'll try it. I like that. I'm going to try it. They cannot do it. Not because they are individually weak. The human nervous system is specifically arranged in such a way that it comes out verbally as the main energy transfer. One of them now, more and more so, with so-called civilized people, those living in the secondary world, as opposed to being directly confronted day by day with the 3 S's of staying alive at the primary level. The energy transfer is now primarily verbal. They even call it, of course they're talking about something else at another level, but now the information age. And most of you are now working with words as opposed to being out there smelting iron. Of course, I guess some of you can smelt even while working in an office, but that's why Procter & Gamble makes those sprays. Better. Words are now one of the primary, and increasingly so, means by which energy is transformed and moves through life's body in man. Any idea of objective statements, any ideas of finding the way, any ideas of actually being able to fulfill any of the ideas, tenets, directives of a religion, of anything. The serious things about love thy neighbor, or don't be critical. Take my version, our version for the night. Don't be critical. All right, let me write that down. That'd be real compassion, is to have no criticism of anyone else's ideas. By God, that's it. But nobody can do it. You're not supposed to do it. How serious can life be about wanting people to find their way? Well, I don't know how this happens. I hope I'm going to write somebody. We're out of time. Not really, but we're sort of out of time, and I don't have time now to go into it since we're out of time to tell you. The tape is running out.